Testing 1, 2, 3. Hey everybody, welcome to the very first episode of the Soul Centered Podcast. I'm super excited to be here making this podcast for you guys, and I've done podcasts 3 times previously. I was a guest on 2 of them, and then I hosted one, and I've always found them to be so enjoyable and so laid back, just being able to let your thoughts flow. And so I wanted to do that here and create kind of a community around that in my Patreon. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. And I'm going to drink my coffee real quick. Starting off, I always thought that I didn't have the right equipment to do podcasts. I needed a podcast microphone, or I needed better equipment, and that my studio just wasn't set for doing podcasts. But especially having so much time right now in the quarantine coronavirus era, I've really gotten motivated to just create and to really just diversify my content and to push my comfort zone. And I think this is something that's going to be really valuable for me in the future. There are going to be a few cuts. I apologize. This is kind of my first rodeo. So between my camera's 30-minute record limit and me just messing up, there are going to be a couple times where there are some jumps and cuts, but I'll try and hide them as best as I can. We're going to do this Q&A style, or AMA, Ask Me Anything. So I posted on my Instagram, the story, a prompt for people to send in, what the heck? I'm sorry about that. That's an amateur move. I sent in a prompt asking people to just give me some questions, and that I was going to be doing a podcast on it. And so we're going to be going over some of the things that you guys have asked. I have obviously read through the questions beforehand before doing this, because I like to prepare myself. And it looks like a fun time. It looks like we're going to have, we have a really good diversity of questions, and I'm excited to answer them for you guys. So basically how this is going to work in the future, as far as the different tiers that you guys can purchase. With the supporter starter pack, that's only going to include the audio version of this. And then the video supporter pack will also have the audio and the video format for watching these. So if you guys want to be able to kind of just watch and have some visuals to go along with what you're listening to, feel free to upgrade to that video value pack. Yes, that's the one. And don't worry, in the future, I'm going to be pumping out a bunch of content for those video value pack supporters and giving them much more, I guess, value for what they are paying for. So let's see. Starting off, our very first question, our very first Q&A. I'm really excited, guys. Steven asks, have you quit parkour and freerunning? You were a beast. Well, thank you, Steven. I have certainly put a lot of time into parkour and freerunning, countless hours, especially when I was a little bit younger. And I believe I started in 5th grade is when I started training unofficially. And it was just me messing around the playground with a couple of my buddies. And I think my dad had showed me a newspaper article. And this is when parkour was brand new. No one really knew about it, including myself. And he showed me the article and he was like, look at this sport, Ben. Because I had just quit Taekwondo. I got my black belt when I was 10 years old. And so there was this phase, this period where I didn't know what to do with myself. And this 10-year-old existential crisis. And in 5th grade, so I was actively searching for something to pick up and something to do. And I think I was doing parkour, just not in a formal sense. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of climbing, jumping around, fooling around. And that's what most kids are doing. And I think being able to use parkour as an avenue to channel that energy and to channel kind of that camaraderie was really valuable for me, especially at that age, and it was certainly what I needed. And there's such a strong community built around what parkour and freerunning is right now, and I'm a little bit sad that I'm not a part of it anymore, and that I'm not involved with, not only the community, but also just the friends that and the friendships and relationships that I've formed through parkour and freerunning. Like, they've been with me through the hardest of falls, the biggest of injuries, and they've also been with me through the greatest triumphs that I've had. And so as far as what I miss about doing parkour on a heavily regular basis, it's the people, and it's the experiences that I've gotten to have and the opportunities. But I'm not completely done with it. On the TV show American Ninja Warrior, I was on American Ninja Warrior, if you don't know that. But last year, my ninja name, it was the Flipping Ninja. And, who knows what's going to happen with the show this year, but I intend to continue to keep using that name, and that kind of has a part, and it lies in my identity in a sense that, parkour is still with me and that I'm still, in a way, a free runner. And I think I've been really thinking about, especially with all of the time that I have now, just not doing anything with self quarantine and social distancing. I've been thinking about just going out and training. So just, running around, doing some flips, trying to polish them up. So no, I certainly haven't fully quit, but there have been some big key reasons as to why I've stopped like posting about it and stopped really doing it for the most part. I've just sustained so many injuries from whether that's been like breaking bones, which have certainly happened a few times, or just kind of repetitive stress on my knees and my lower back. And that's something that I still carry with me. I mean, it's only been a couple of years, but I think that in the future, I think it's going to be something that I really carry with me for a long time, and something that will keep kind of irritating me, and something that will keep kind of showing up in my other physical hobbies and my other it's something that will keep showing up in my other kind of physically fit, and it's something that's going to keep showing up in my other kind of fitness oriented hobbies. Like, I definitely see the limitations of what I can do based on the injuries that I've sustained previously, and whether that's like with rock climbing or Ninja Warrior, or like especially things that are endurance based, like my back and my knees just give out pretty quickly. But I if I could go back and do things differently, I would just be less reckless, because I certainly just didn't care. There was this period where I didn't care about, my safety or about the risk that doing certain tricks had, or just jumping across buildings, stupid things like that. And so I wish I could go back and just tell my younger self not to be as big of a risk taker, or at least an unnecessary risk taker, because it's got me nothing, like it's only gotten me these injuries. And what I have videos to show, but I mean, who cares? So yeah, no, I'm still with it, and I still have ability, but who knows if I probably lost the talent. Next up, Jake asks, what do you recommend doing to stay fit during the quarantine? Well, Jake, so I actually made a couple of YouTube videos kind of around this topic. One where I laid out my own workout for you guys to try. Holy cow! I'm so sorry. One where I laid out my own workout for you guys to try, and then one where I've taken a workout that's already been published by Athlete X, and I try it. You see me die, and I think there's a lot more that I can do though. Like, besides just what's on my YouTube channel, I'm gonna go like more in depth as to what you can do to stay fit, or to even get fit if you aren't currently investing in yourself like that, which is totally fine, because I mean, people have busy lives and busy schedules. But I would say the most important thing is to really focus on just moving. Like, get yourself to do something on a daily basis, whether that's going for a walk in the morning, first thing in the morning, or going to a fitness class with your girlfriends, or just doing an at-home workout by yourself. I mean, obviously now I think you're limited to going for a walk, doing an at-home workout by yourself or with your family members. For me, I've been lucky because I've gotten to still train with a couple friends of mine, and we've just been practicing safe social distancing. But it's been really hard, and I think with the mass closing of all gyms, I've it's hit me not only like physically, as far as it'll impede my gains, if you want to call it that, but it's also hit me in a mental sense of like, wow, I have zero, like, all of my options, all of the limitless possibilities of what I could do to stay fit. It's been severely narrowed, and I think that has really hit the motivation tank for me, and I'm lacking I'm lacking a lot of that self-motivation, and I've been skipping a ton of workouts, but I think that's okay. And if you're in that similar spot, that is completely okay because I get caught up in just because I'm making a decision now, that doesn't mean it's permanent, and that I can experiment with things and I can just veer off quickly, but then I need to be comfortable knowing that I will come back, to the path that I've been on, which is going to the gym on a regular basis, working out, laying out these organized, detailed plans for myself on a regular basis. And honestly, one thing I can do is just post kind of my workout plan, my workout layout on Patreon for you guys in a text format. That's something that I'm more than happy to do. But I think that the biggest thing as far as keeping your level of fitness, it depends on your goal, and it depends on what kind of athleticism that you specialize in or where you focus your time and efforts, because you can't train for everything. And if you do, you're not gonna be a master of any of them. And that's fine, because I do that, and I'm not a master at parkour, not a master at Ninja Warrior, not a master at rock climbing, not a master at bodybuilding, weightlifting. I'm not a master at calisthenics. I'm just like okay at everything, which is completely fine with me because my career doesn't like revolve around that. And sometimes that's something you need to do in order to stay busy and to prevent from being bored by doing monotonous workouts. And I think that just taking an objective look at where you are and what your needs are for a workout plan, like, do you need a diverse exercise layout? Do you need something that's constantly changing and revolving to either confuse your muscles or just to break the monotony of it? Or are you okay with, stepping on the treadmill, pulling a 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and then doing some ab workouts, some other upper body and lower body, I guess, exercises, throwing them in the mix? Are you okay with that? And I think there's value, there's pros and cons to both. I think ideally, I would recommend just sticking with a program or sticking with some set workout scheme for a couple months. And I suppose now that's good to hear, because I think we'll be in this for a couple months. So if you choose to do something new and you want to reorient your fitness schedule and your fitness, what you're doing for your personal fitness, if you want to reorient that around the limitations we have set by this quarantine and social distancing thing, then I think that's good. And I think that you can be comfortable. Well, you don't want to be comfortable, but you can rest easy, knowing that it will be beneficial to stick with it for 2 months, 3 months, as opposed to switching from this whole thing that you've put your time into developing or researching about, switching like week by week by week. And don't worry, like, we're all in this together, and it's not like, I mean, some people own like their own quarantine gym. I don't know why. And some people have prepared for the situation and they own their own like quarantine gym. It's kind of crazy. I don't have any equipment, and so I've just been trying to work with body weight, and I've been trying to push myself and grow in areas that I've identified are my weaknesses. And so that's, I guess, what I would encourage you guys to do as well. Awesome question though. Let's see. Noah asks, "How long have you been doing video for?" Wow. It certainly feels like it's been a while. I think my first YouTube video ever, I believe, was in 2013, I think. And that was when I was in 8th grade. Again, we were doing parkour and free running. I could do like one flip at that period of time. I think it was a front flip. And so we made just a showcase, a show reel video to put on YouTube about our parkour and free running. We had made a parkour team called Chaos Free Running, and that was a ton of fun. And that's when it all started, is when I created my YouTube channel. And that video is still on there. It's kind of bad, so don't go watch it. But it only grew from there. And so I evolved from doing kind of the parkour, the free running videos, the show reel type videos. I went and, I guess, broadened my interests as far as what I was creating on. And I started to do travel videos. But of course, I would throw some parkour and free running, some flips in there, and oh man, those are some pretty gnarly edits as far as not looking good. But I think I really started to grasp my passion for video creation and video editing when I stopped trying to cut corners as far as the post production process goes, because I constantly wanted my requirements for an editing program were one, that it was free, two, that it wasn't too complicated. It couldn't be a PC or Mac based program because I didn't have that. So I wanted to do it on my iPod Touch. And then I also despised color grading, which is really funny because I freaking love it now, and it's like the icing on the cake for me now. But I hated it, and I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't know anything about it, and I guess still I don't. But I just wanted nothing to do with it, and so I constantly kept looking, like I kept reading these articles, listening to these YouTubers, and if I even heard the word color correction or color grading, oh, I would just click off immediately. And I think when I discovered my passion for this is when I realized that there were so many things that I wasn't doing that could make and provide value to the videos that I was creating. And I just realized how like stuck up I was and how kind of limited I was forcing myself to be, how primitive my videos were by not having sound design, by not color grading, by not having intentional shots, by just throwing something together and not even revising it, just not even having, because like I would put together draft one and post it, and that was it. And I was like, oh, that was good. And I was like, oh well, what a coincidence! Like this shot lined up with the music. That's pretty cool. But now I'm intentional about those sort of things, and I think that was a process that took me years to learn, that took me years to grasp. And I knew what sounded good, I knew what looked good. I just didn't know how to get there. And again, still I'm learning. I still don't exactly know what the things are that really define my style. But I think I draw inspiration from all of my favorite creators and all of the other influencers in my life, and I kind of just put in this melting pot and I'm trying to develop it. So right now I'm in the cooking phase. Like I'm grabbing the ingredients. I kind of have most of them, but now I'm kind of just put them in the pot. The pot's heating up, and we're working on getting my own style. Good question though. Like, man, these are some fun questions. Next one, an anonymous user asks, "What should a beginning filmmaker do, and what videography tips would you recommend?" Interesting. Well, I think I'm able to certainly empathize with the beginning videographer culture and those who kind of identify as that. And I think it's hard, man. And I think it's easy to get inspired. It's hard to execute. And it's easy to watch tutorials, but it's hard to absorb the content and bring it into your own workflow in a creative sense to where you're not plagiarizing. But that's what you need to do, is you need to just grab content and grab a tutorial and then execute it step by step, make it kind of an assembly line process. And then by drilling it and by doing repetition with certain steps and certain processes, that's how you can really learn to break off from it and then differentiate for yourself. And it's a fine line, my friend. Even though I don't know who you are because you're anonymous, it's a fine line of kind of just making your own processes and copying other people's. And I'm not saying that I copy anyone else's style. I think, oh no, I was about to say my favorite creator, but that is a future question down the road, a couple ones down. So I won't go there yet, but I would recommend just watching YouTube videos. One, that was definitely where I learned a ton of information, and I think that there are some things you can jumpstart, like you can invest in yourself to do to break the learning curve. There's such a debate between whether or not you need a fancy, expensive camera or even a camera in general if you can just use your iPhone. And I think for me, getting a nice, expensive camera, and not even an expensive one, even when I had like a $300 camera, the Panasonic G7, that really helped me to realize, like, even when I was going out on a shoot, having a camera in your hand as opposed to having an iPhone in your hand Like you know what you're doing, you know what you're set out to do because you have a camera. It's a real camera, and you know that you want to get shots. And I think if you have an iPhone in your hand and you go out on a shoot, it's hard to kind of get that motivation just by looking down at your hands and what you have in them. And I think you're like, well, I can make a call, I can text, I can go on social media. And I think putting away the distractions and having something that can only do, well, I guess two things, video and photo, I think that is really valuable. And that's definitely something that motivates me when I go outside of my comfort zone and I start to go on like shoots in different areas. But I think definitely phone videos are a thing. They do work, especially since phones are now these days $1,000, and so you might as well try and get all the value that you can from that investment you've made in your phone by making some videos. And if you make like, go ahead and make 10, 15 videos. If you enjoy the process and if you like what you're doing, if you like what you're seeing, kind of, but you're able to like pinpoint some things where you're like, oh, that could be better, that could look a little bit better, and maybe a camera could help me get there. Then I think that we're talking like, yeah, go ahead, get a camera. I think it's the right step. I know now in these times, camera production is like, it's dead, and it's a little bit harder to get your hands on one. So you might have to wait a little bit if you are at that spot. And I'm sorry about that. It's kind of rough. But in addition to YouTube, I think taking courses, investing in the education. Like for me, I took the full-time filmmaker course, $600 course, but now in quarantine, it's $500, so you can get it for $100 off. I think that doing that really helped me to learn a lot of the concepts that I was confused with and just some ones that I wasn't aware of. And so that definitely helped push me past a steep learning curve. It's all about flattening the curve, especially with filmmaking and coronavirus. But I think also I know film school is a thing. I don't know if I would recommend it. My university doesn't offer a film program. We have a media production program, so that's where I'm at as far as education goes. And then when it comes to just doing things, I say like just create, just make stuff. Like don't worry too much about if you hate the scripting process, if you hate the planning process of videos, that's okay. Like just take a break from that and focus on what you might enjoy, which is like actually creating the videos and maybe even editing the videos. And then at a later date, when you've realized that you've gotten as good as you can as far as those two steps of the production and the post-production side of things, then channel your efforts and some of your time and attention and care into the pre-production. Like if there's something that you hate about it, don't force yourself through it in the beginning stage, because then you'll burn out and you'll realize, oh, I don't like this very much. And it could be the death of your filmmaking creative career. Okay, so hope I answered your questions, guys. This is a lot of fun for me, but I hope I'm doing a good job. Rico asks, what makes you feel like a collaborative project was successful? Okay, so when we're talking collaborative projects, this is in reference, I think, obviously, to a film group effort, as far as like shooting a short film or shooting a corporate video, interview, talking head. And let's see, when I'm working with other people, there are certain things that I'm able to identify that lead me to believing that it was a failure and that it didn't go the way that I was hoping. But when I'm with groups and I'm working with others, it's harder for me to determine like what things I'm looking for. Like I don't have a checklist as far as what I think makes a successful group effort. I think if we get the goal done, if we go in and if we leave having completed what we were there to accomplish, I think that's a success in itself. But I also think there's an interpersonal success that you either hit or that you miss completely. And I think that involves around making sure that there's communication, that there's good, healthy communication. I think it's, respecting each other's time, and it's easier. I think it's easier to do group projects with smaller groups, obviously. So if you just got like one partner, one collaborator, then it's super easy to organize the talent, and they're part of the group as well. So I guess you don't only have one partner, but it's easier to organize the talent and organize kind of the crew as far as what you need set up and what needs to happen at a specific time. But I think one thing that is very apparent in collaborative group projects is the level and the amount of pre-work of the grunt work that has been done prior to showing up on set or whatever it is you guys are shooting. And I think that's what makes or breaks certain projects. I've definitely been on some where I have had to do everything, and that was for a class project, and no one else knew what was going on. But I'd done my part in communicating, and those don't go as well. But I think that the ones where you're forced into it, like a class project scenario, I mean, that's the nature of it. People aren't really going to care. People aren't going to put time into trying to understand the vision of the project, which is fine, like, don't take it that seriously. But there have been other projects that I've done where I have invested myself, I mean, obviously you invest your time, but I've invested like my gear and my money into it. And I think that is something that's not necessary to get people to care, but in a way it is, like if someone's not getting anything out of it, if the talent aren't getting at least food, but I know there's this huge stigma around, actors doing free work or actors receiving payment in the form of food. Like, I know it's not great, but sometimes it's all you can do. I think that's something that can be done to make a collaborative project better and to make it more pleasant just to be on and be present at, is just to pay your crew, like pay them in food if you have to, pay them, whatever, give them $100 an hour. I don't know. And I think that just really, I don't know, man, it's crazy. It buys a certain attitude from the talent and from the crew, and it's bad, but I think it might be necessary, because otherwise people show up late, and people just don't really care. They blow things off, they reschedule, and I mean you're gonna see that regardless of whether or not you pay your talent or your group. But I think that is what you can do on your end, is to make sure you have everything dialed in as far as preparation goes, like making sure you know your shots, you know the script, you know how to direct them in which way, you know the process in which you want to do it, but also like nailing, like, you can't control the actions of those other people. To a certain extent, as the director, you can, but you can't control like if they show up late and all those things, just basic common courtesy things. But if you pay them, that's the best you can do. Like, you're gonna expect to see them on their best behavior if they're getting something out of it. So that's my 2 cents on collaborative projects. They're fun, and I definitely like doing independent projects on my own. And I think having a balance of them is really important for like not being bored. And I love doing both of them. Let's see. Elvis asks, who is your favorite creator and why? So, my favorite creator, my favorite filmmaker is Matt D'Avella. Sorry, my camera just hit the recording limit. Prior to that, it was Peter McKinnon, but I think now, just seeing the wide variety of content that Matt is putting out there, and he inspired me to go to Patreon. He inspired me to do podcasts. I think just so much of my work has been influenced by his, and I'm not trying to copy him. I know there are a lot of YouTubers out there who like directly copy his style or his video topics or his thumbnails, his titles. And I think that's not where I want to be, and that's not what I want to do. But I want to draw some things that I like from his work and kind of add them into mine in a less apparent, less obvious way. If you guys don't know who he is, go check him out. He's got a ton of influence and reach on his social media platforms. Nikki asks, what was it like being an American Ninja Warrior? Well, it was crazy, that's for sure. Even now, like when I think back on it, it doesn't feel like I was there. It doesn't feel like that I competed on the TV show American Ninja Warrior. My coffee's cold, it's kind of bad. But it was a dream come true. and it was a blur. And that's kind of a bummer because I really wanted to be present and to document it. I think a big thing for me is documenting, like through video. And I was able to record some of the stuff, but in the stadium, they were so strict about that. So, not really able to get anything in there. Unfortunate, but I guess it allows for things like this for me to talk about it. And that has a certain value to it, I guess. But it all started when I got the call on, I believe it was April 5th or the 3rd, something like that. And the head producer called me up, and I knew what area code I was waiting for, so I knew it was my time when I saw the number pop up on my screen. And he congratulated me, told me that I would be competing in Tacoma, Washington, blah blah blah. And I was sitting in the Bethel University grill, just sitting there studying when I got the call, and I just like I lost it. I was crazy excited. I didn't cry or anything, but like I was super thrilled to just have this opportunity. And from there, it really grew like into planning the trip, inviting my guests, my friends, my family, and there were so many things that just whooshed on by. Like it's a blur of one thing to the next. And when I got in the plane and when I got in the airport, that was when I was like, this is it. This is happening. I guess when you're planning for things, you don't really realize the true fullness of it, which makes sense because you're not present in it. You're just preparing for it. And being there on the plane and in the airport, I was nervous, but I was excited and comforted by the people around me. My girlfriend, my best friends, my family, and it was something that I thought that I wasn't ready for, but something that I was really excited for. And so we got to the air. We flew, got to the second airport in Seattle, and we went to the Airbnb. And like my first time doing an Airbnb, it was pretty crazy, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful home, and I think the first day that I had to go in for filming was such a downer, and it was kind of a buzzkill as far as my excitement level goes. And I realized like, oh, this is just a production. Like it's not my dream. It's not a dream TV show. It's a production. And so I went in and I had to sit there for hours and hours just in a waiting room. And it was great because I got to talk to people. I got to meet people. I met another filmmaker, so that was kind of fun. But then they interviewed me and just on camera, and then we did an audio version as well. And it was good. It was good. I think I did a decent job at it. I think I delivered my points and executed what it is they were looking for. But it was boring. And I don't know, I didn't have fun that day, which is fine because I got home and we got to go out and do a couple of things before the day ended. So we kind of redeemed my day. And then the next day was when I had to go in for the first day of taping the real show. And so I had to be there at 8 in the morning, which isn't too bad, but it was worse that I had to stay there until 9 o'clock at night. So it's like 13 hours of taping. But I got there, I got my number. I actually gave my number to a friend of mine, but I think it was like 546, something like that. Which means that 5 was the fifth episode, fifth taping location, and then I was the 46th or 40 something person to go and to run. So I was like, well, I was well placed in the middle. So I didn't have to be too nervous about going first, and I didn't have to be too nervous about like going last, watching everybody kill the course, and then being like, oh crap, I have to do all of this and do it at this certain time. So it was a good spot to be at, I think, and I'm grateful that I was placed pretty spot in the middle. But we got a goodie bag of American Ninja Warrior stuff, and that was fun. And I just was locked up, not locked up, but cooped up in the athlete holding area. So that's where all of the competitors were. I mean, there were legends there. Drew Dreshel was there, Jesse Graff, Barclay Stockett. Those were people who weren't even competing. Well, Jesse Graff did. But Jake Murray, Lance Pekus, there were so many people that I had seen on this legendary show. And seeing them in person, I don't know, I think it just really reminded me that I tend to idolize people and celebrities. Not all celebrities, but I tend to put people on a pedestal. But seeing them, I think there's a value to that because it really brings you down to earth and it really brings them off of that pedestal. They're great people, but that's what they are. They're people. And so I don't know. That's just something that happened in my head, but it was fun to see the first runners and the first testers go and demonstrate the course. Like, I was scared when you're walking up next to it. The obstacles look just massive, and so, anything could have happened. And in my mind, I was planning for the worst, which was me falling in the first obstacle. But I was, I don't even know. My mind was just everywhere at that point. And so they called for all of the athletes to go back to the holding area and that we were going to get started. They started seating the audience and all of that. And then after 46 people or whatever, I was feeling good. I felt like I could do it. And I did my run. The first obstacle was the floating steps. I thought I was going to fall off on the last one because I was like veering to the side, but I think my speed helped to fix that. The second obstacle was the lunatic ledges. I'm not going to go through it actually because that's really boring. But ultimately, I got the fastest time of the night, which was incredible. And I didn't think at all that me as a 19, I was the youngest person there. I turned 19, which was the minimum age, 2 weeks before the taping day. So I was the youngest person, and I didn't think that I stood a chance. And to see and to hear from Akbar himself congratulate me that I had gotten the fastest time of the night and that I had a chance to compete on the power tower, that was crazy. And I was interviewed by the talk host Zuri after my run. She interviewed me next to my family. It was a ton of fun. And I didn't think that, like, I think that's the best it could have gone. I was thinking about going for the mega wall. Really glad that I didn't, because a 5'4" guy going up against an 18-foot wall, that just doesn't work. So I'm really glad that I was able to secure at that point the fastest time. In the end, I got sixth overall, sixth fastest for the qualifier night, which was a bummer because the top 5 get paid. But I think overall I'm happy with how it went. I can't say the same for the second night. The second city finals shooting day is when I took a splash on only the fifth obstacle, which was the lightning bolts. I gotten through it like no problem on the first day, but I guess it just wasn't my time. It wasn't meant to be, and that's fine because over, I think it was like 60-something% of all of the athletes who competed in city finals had fallen on that same obstacle, and a couple big name athletes did as well. So I'm happy with it, and who knows what the season is going to look like for this year, with everything being canceled and postponed. But I'm excited to eventually make my return on the show and to train harder. I think right after that I was upset, and it really motivated me to train hard and push myself. But I think that motivation, that shallow motivation, has died off, and I've definitely let up on my training routine. So I think actually having this postponed delay of the event could be beneficial because it'll give me more time to prepare and to focus my efforts into getting ready again for city finals and for getting to national finals. Whew, wow. Okay. Milo asks, this is the last one, how do you keep motivated during crazy times like these? That is a good question. It's been hard, and I've certainly, like, every day it gets harder. Like, my motivation tends to dwindle off after each day passes. Like, the very first day of this, I was like, this is super sick. I get to make videos. I can just stay home. I don't have to go to work. I don't have to do school. But then kind of the reality started to set in as the days progressed. Like, I can't be with my girlfriend. She has to be in a 2-week self-quarantine because she was outside of the country. She's fine. Don't worry about it. But that makes it hard. School is canceled for the rest of the year. I mean, it's online, so I still get to, get my education. But I really enjoy just being present at Bethel. So that's also a bummer. My jobs are kind of done as far as reliable paychecks rolling in, and the consistency is just completely thrown off. But I mean, I am getting unemployment, so I'm grateful for that. Just so many things are off their rhythm. They're just out of whack. And I think it's given me a lot of time to really think about what I want to do and how I want to progress in the future as a creator and as an individual. But it's been really challenging to keep motivated, and I've certainly it's been showing up. I've skipped workouts. I've skipped a ton, and the ones that I have done, I've cut in half. I've quit early, just because there's a certain motivation and a certain drive that you get from being physically in the gym, that you don't get from being in your bedroom and trying to get a pump or trying to target your muscle groups. It just doesn't click for me, and I think this is the adjustment period, and I think it's really hard now. But I think once I do get adjusted, I think this can work, and I think that's what I need to keep telling myself in order to stay motivated and in order to keep my head above the water. And I'm very grateful for the things that I've been blessed with and for the things that I've been given by God, by my family, by my friends. And I think that things could be a lot more difficult right now. Not asking for them to be, but I think I'm lucky as far as what I have and what I don't have to deal with at this time. And I hope that all of you guys are staying healthy and that you guys are finding a way to keep motivated, finding a way to stay creative, whether that's going for walks in the morning or whether it's knitting, finding a game to play with your family, doing things to stay present and to draw the ones who are close to you even nearer, because I think in these times, family, friends, relationships, they've never been more important and necessary. So that's just those are just my thoughts on everything. Thank you guys so much for all of the great questions. This is something that I'll be posting about at the beginning of every month, I'm planning. So kind of putting out the question prompts towards the beginning of each month, and then filming and editing, distributing these podcasts about halfway through. And so I'm excited to keep up with this, the Soul Centered Podcast. And let's see, you can submit them to you can submit your questions to my personal phone number at 651-788-6002, or you can email them to me at bjm@bethel. Wait, no, sorry, I completely messed it up. bjm26872@bethel.edu, or just feel free to hit me up on Instagram or Facebook, whatever. I'm around. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this community. It does mean the world to me, and we will see you later.